Hey guys, and welcome to Tnashi's Movie Corner. Today we will be doing a versus of Toy Story 3 versus Wreck-It Ralph. Now this is part of the animated tournament that my brother and I decided to do. And in order to determine a winner, we go by plot, main character, side character, songs, humor, villain, cast, romance, action, themes, and memorability. So let's get started here. When it came to plot, we actually gave the plot to Toy Story 3. If you don't know, Toy Story 3 incorporates kind of the toys thinking that Andy is beyond them now because he's going off to college, and they think that they're going to kind of get thrown out with the trash, so they move to go to this daycare, and it was an accident that ended up there, but they think that the daycare would be a better place, and they get introduced to this teddy bear who's really warm and inviting, like invites them into this place, and they think that they have everything set. And it's not all as it's to be as it seems, though, because realistically, like, the teddy bear put them in the smaller kids' room, and the smaller kids don't know how to really handle the toys and everything. So you have some conflict there with them finding out that this supposed teddy bear that's inviting is actually kind of manipulating people and is in charge of this daycare and all that. So for me, I just felt like that was a better plot than, say, Ralph, who goes on a mission to kind of become a hero because he's the villain in his game, and encounters shenanigans along the way with, like, Penelope and the racing and being a glitch and all that. I just felt like Toy Story kind of delivered the plot better. When it came to main character, we went for Woody versus Ralph, and I gave it to Woody because we've already seen that he's a good character in other films, but for this film in particular, he kind of has a life-changing moment, where he thinks he knows what he wants and what he wants for everybody, but then about midway in the movie, he changes his mind. He realizes that he made a mistake, and that the correct way to go is what they end up doing. And I'm trying not to spoil these too much in case you haven't seen them, but he has a bigger kind of showcase of that, whereas Ralph has development and everything, and Ralph does learn a little bit of a lesson, but I always felt like Ralph was kind of picked on by the other characters for little reason. So, his moment is fine, but it's kind of overshadowed by other stuff, incorporating other characters. So, anyway, that's why we gave it to Woody. Side characters we also gave Toy Story 3. There's a lot more of them, and they actually all play a role in this movie, whereas I felt like they were kind of shoehorned in the second one, for instance. So I feel like they just work better, and there's more of them to work. Whereas Ralph, Penelope's the only one that really has any presence, and it's just not enough. So songs we gave to Wreck-It Ralph. Toy Story 3 doesn't have that many songs. They got You Got a Friend in Me, which is in Spanish, which is fine. And I believe there's a couple others. I can't think of their names. But Wreck-It Ralph it has a few more songs going for it. And I don't necessarily love them, but, Sugar Rush is an interesting one. And you got Owl City performs one, which is fine. It's not too bad. The songs kind of work better for this movie, just because they're more of a presence in the movie, for one, and they're not rehashing old songs, which is what Toy Story 3 did, for at least one of them. So, also humor goes to Wreck-It Ralph. There's not as much humor in Toy Story 3. There's a little bit, but there's not as much as I'd say 2 or 1. So it takes more of a serious tone to it in a way. And there's plenty of humor in Wreck-It Ralph, between, like, seeing two characters from another game interacting with each other in a bar, or all the villains getting together talking. all that works. Or the Oreo soldiers that are marching and saying Oreo as their chant, stuff like that really works out. And then you have some humor between the side characters as well for that, like Fix-It Felix and forget the woman's name. But anyway, the humor went to Wreck-It Ralph. Villain we gave to Toy Story 3 because, again, that little teddy bear is quite a bit. And this was really close to going to Wreck-It Ralph. I think the bear just works better for me than King Candy does. But and part of that is due to like the way like his kind of mannerisms and everything. And you think he's you suspect he's bad from the beginning, but later on there's a chance that he turns good and all that after being bad, and then ultimately he proves that he's the, and you relate to him a little bit because you understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, his actions aren't justified by it. You just sympathize with his history. Anyway, going to cast, we also gave it to Toy Story for Tim Allen and Tom Hanks. I mean, they really embody those characters, so they did a really good job there. Romance went to Wreck-It Ralph, surprisingly. And I say that because I don't particularly like the relationship that gets established between two of the side characters in that. It starts off being a little funny because they're kind of playing on the aspect of it while suggesting that it's not going to happen. But then it does happen. And I do feel like it kind of fails a little bit in that regard. However, for me, it works out better than Toy Story 3's, because Toy Story 3, you get the idea of Buzz and what his feelings are and everything towards Jessie, but you don't really get as much from her on her like what she thinks of him, except near the very end of the movie, and it was more shoehorned in than Wreck-It Ralph, so Wreck-It Ralph gets it on that. Action also goes to Wreck-It Ralph. Being in a video game world, I would have been surprised if there wasn't any kind of action. And you got the action of Hero's Duty when they're in that video game, and you got some racing action later on in Sugar Rush, and you got the battle between King Candy, So all that works pretty well. Themes we gave to Toy Story 3 because of the idea of growing up and moving on and friends staying together, and they all worked out really well. I think they're really well presented, and they're just presented a little better than Wreck-It Ralph's, which is kind of in your face on its themes, and I don't think Toy Story 3 is as much in your face. Memorability we also gave to Toy Story 3. This category slightly, I would almost question it a little because Toy Story 3 is the third one, so we've come to know these characters. But at the same time, Wreck-It Ralph, like if we just go by the movie, Toy Story 3 has moments in it that I think work really well, regardless of you seeing the other two. Whereas Wreck-It Ralph doesn't have as many moments. Toy Story 3 has, like, you have the kind of opening montage thing with Andy as a kid and everything, growing up with these toys. You got the end with Andy saying goodbye and all that. You got a moment where the toys are in peril and it looks like they're going to go, and there's just kind of a look between them, and they reach out and grab each other's hands, and decide that they're going to face it. You got moments like that are really strong and present, and Wreck-It Ralph doesn't really have anything that stands out to me as being within the same ballpark as this, so we had to go ahead and give it to Toy Story 3. But anyway, for those of you keeping count, Toy Story 3 has 7 and Wreck-It Ralph has 4. So from a 7-4 vote, Toy Story 3 wins it and moves on. This wasn't particularly a close matchup, but Toy Story, any Toy Story movie that's in this tournament, it's kind of a hard contender to take down, and Wreck-It Ralph, gave it some effort, but in the end, as good as Wreck-It Ralph is as a first movie in a series, it just doesn't match Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 has had 2 other movies to try to build up to this point, so it really delivers on it. And it's a bit of an unfortunate matchup in a way, but it is what it is. So anyway, guys, that's the end of this round. And did you think that Toy Story 3 was going to win? Would you have had it win over Wreck-It Ralph, or do you think Wreck-It Ralph should have actually pulled through there? Hopefully you enjoyed this vid and like and subscribe to my channel and watch my other vids. Also, feel free to comment about your, not just your opinions on this matchup,